right. Okay, guys. Abuse in a relationship, guys. We want to talk about this. There's more than one angle that we need people to understand. The very first thing I want to talk about before I get James involved here, guys, is that we have to understand that this is a sensitive topic. So I want you to be patient as you feel triggered, okay? Because abuse is no one's fault, but there are things that we need to understand if we want to break certain cycles and get the relationship that we want, okay? Is that fair? Can we all agree to be friends right now while we figure this out? All right, let's do it. All right, so if you don't know, I was extremely abusive to my wife, Catherine. The first 4 years of our marriage, I abused her emotionally. And I mean, not just puking feelings. I mean, keep her up all night long, lecture her, keeping her home from work. I would demean her. I would destroy her character as a woman, as a wife, and eventually as a mother in those first 4 years. Okay. Now, what you need to also understand is that, sorry, I said 4 years. It would be a little longer, but there was a lot of physical intimidation and assaults. Okay. I didn't punch my wife in the face, but I was physical enough. For example, throwing Catherine out of the house, mocking her for not being able to have the money to fill her suitcase, more of that emotional abuse. Okay. By throwing an empty suitcase on her and locking the door. Okay. I did terrible things like flipping my wife out of the bed, spitting hot coffee in her mouth, on her face from my mouth. Okay. I was a very emotionally, physically, and I also would get piss ass drunk and then go into the bedroom and do my thing to her. Okay. I was a very bad man for years. Now, before I turn this over to James for a second, I want you to understand there are two types of abuse that we need to understand. Okay. Characterological and situational abuse. Very different things, and they're both exactly what they sound like. Let me explain though. Characterological means it's a Tuesday, I'm going to punch you in the fucking face. Okay. The toilet paper roll was put on backwards. I'm going to fucking scream at you. Okay. Meaning, sorry, I did that wrong. Meaning the second one is situational. Okay. Whatever's led up to the situation. Okay. Then we are, if we know that our partner can't stand the toilet paper roll, but we instinctually say, fuck it, I'm going to push their buttons and put the toilet paper roll, that becomes situational abuse. But if it's a Tuesday and you're getting raped, if it's a Tuesday and you're getting screamed at, if it's a Tuesday and you're getting punched in the face, that is characterological. It has nothing to do with you. Now, in either cases, you don't deserve the abuse. But I have a podcast episode that's about to release where I say the abuse that you deserve. Because again, trigger warning, I know nobody deserves abuse.
Right.
But sometimes in situational abuse, most often there are two victims. Okay. My wife, who is responsible for 10% of the toxicity in those terrible depths of hell years. She took 100% responsibility. And she says, I know when I was being a cunt and I know why he abused me further. Does that justify my abuse? No. But if we understand that we have the marriage we want because she took responsibility, that was the catalyst for my growth. Okay. The byproduct was the marriage. Okay. Now let's dive into this further. I want to say again, because I know a lot of people will be triggered. The abuse that you're receiving is not your fault. However, there is a part to play if it's situational.
Right.
Okay. And if you miss the situational characterological, I want you to watch the beginning of this and catch up. Right. What do you think, James?
Yeah. Well, we're talking about this, Cass, because we do things a lot differently at Morrow. We created the opportunity. That's what I tell people. We do have programs, we do have coaching, we do have education, but we created an opportunity for people to truly become free. And when I say free, I'm not talking about free bird, free cents. I'm talking about absolutely 100% autonomous, free from emotion, free from triggers, free from, anything that drives them up.
Time out. He doesn't mean free from emotion. He means free from being controlled by your emotions. Okay.
Yeah. That's what I was about to say, in the sense that anything that would drive us or control us, we're free from the control. We're free from the drive. So for example, in the emotion sense, I'm no longer triggered by things that used to trigger me, because my emotions now, I get to take them, witness them, and experience them rather than being controlled by the way they make me feel.
Correct.
All right. So we provide opportunity for people to discover who they are and to really be free.
Mm-hmm.
And that means they know who they are. So they find they find their real identity. But the reason we're talking about abuse today is because abuse adds layers on top of that real identity. And we begin to adapt, we begin to change, we become chameleons. We look at life through that abusive lens. And a lot of the guys that we work with, especially over the last few months, have taken on the identity of victim.
A victim. Yes. And I'll speak about the women in Catherine's program. Almost all of them are a victim.
Correct.
But if we understand the role that we play in the victimhood, okay,
right,
rather than your success and where you're going, you can change things dramatically.
That's right.
Right.
And so these are people who want to be free, who want to be in their relationship, who understand that they probably are experiencing some abuse. But one of the things that I've learned is a lot of times what people think is abuse is not necessarily intentional. It's sort of that situational stuff that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so for me, I give some examples that I gave yesterday to the men is that, you know, my stepfather was emotionally abusive to me. He mocked me. He made fun of me. He did think he blamed me for stuff I didn't do. And then he would beat me physically and throw me as a child because he just felt like I deserved it. Well, in my marriage, when my wife would be upset and when I would push these things because I would be projecting this fear, I would push this energy out. She would defend herself. She would say things that were derogatory. I would feel abused, even though she was not abusing me.
This is so powerful. Did you guys catch that? Okay. So if you're on the side here where you want to move your marriage forward and you're being abused, okay, I don't mean to downplay that with the quotations.
Right.
I mean seriously, because we need to understand what's going on. Okay. Quite often it's tied to your childhood. And you know anything about us, you know we don't need to fucking give a shit about your childhood, because I could talk about my shit all day long for a year. So could James. So could you. We've all got it. So let's let it go. Because what happens is we project the pain that we're feeling back on our partner. Mm-hmm. So even if we say, forget the terrible things that I did to Catherine, the worst things that you guys are going through right now, okay? Think about that. He just simply talked about feeling the way his dad would talk to him and trigger him. Then when his wife, when he felt like she was doing that, okay, then he would get triggered and he would project all of that pain back onto her.
Yeah.
Okay. So now in most of the cases of you guys listening right now, you're thinking, yeah, that's what happens. He's projecting it all on me. Yeah. But did you hear what he caught? What he said? She was saying to him, treating him in a way that triggered him. So that's the situational thing.
That's right.
Right.
And so we get to this cycle where what happens is we get through this stuff. And so we get to a place now of discovery. So for me, 710 days free. All right. No anxiety, no triggers, no nothing. And so what happens with some guys that they get to this place where they're starting to grow, and then they start realizing, wait a minute, man, my wife, or women would say, my husband, they're emotionally abusive. Maybe true. We're not downplaying that. And I know we keep giving that caveat, but we want you guys who are popping in and out to understand this is a specific conversation about it. And here's the point. You are not a survivor. That is not your identity, even though you did survive it. Even if it made you strong, being a victim is not part of who you are. So
guys, think about how important this is. I'm no longer a rapist to my wife.
Yes.
People will call me that still today. It does not affect me because that is not who I am. It is no longer a part of my identity. There was more to my identity. I was a monster, super rageful, super emotionally abusive, physically intimidating, and physically assaulting. Okay. That's not who I am. Okay. We tie ourselves to this shit because of the crap we went through. Okay. I would have rather been punched directly in the face by my father than have to lick toilets to prove to my mother and my father they were clean. You know what I mean? I got other kinds of beatings. I would have rather been punched in the face and be done. One punch, two punches, be done.
That's right.
Okay. It's not our place to decide whose abuse is worse and what trauma is worse and all of that shit. Because when you're trying to move your relationship forward, there's only one option: to not be a victim, to stand in your strength, and to actually start taking steps to move it forward. Or you're going to have to say, I'm tired of the abuse. continue to victimize yourself, and probably repeat the cycle in the next relationship.
That's right.
And probably your kids will
That's
repeat
right.
the same cycles.
Yeah. And
Like, we have to do better. What's that?
We leave space for being validated. Nobody is invalidating the experience of nobody's going to take that away from me. It's an experience, just like the birth of my first child, just like my wedding day experiences, but they don't define me. So what happens is sometimes we want that validation. It's okay to want the validation of the experience, to say, you know what, this happened to me and I'm a victim. Now, let's understand that when you make that your identity, it becomes a new form of imprisonment, one that mimics the very abuser that they sought to escape. So then the abuser is still in control of you because you're looking to reinforce the abuse as a defining moment in your identity, which leads to a different type of codependency.
Correct. Guys, this is a powerful message that I'm sharing a lot right now. Pain is more addictive than heroin. You are interested in recreating your pain because it's easier to feel that and blame someone instead of realizing, fuck, this sucks. Remember Catherine in the story. This sucks. I don't deserve this. 90% of the toxicity and abuse in the home in the bad years with Catherine and me was me. I was a very bad fucking man.
Yeah.
But Catherine realized there must have been something wrong with her to not, she didn't repeat her cycle with bad men. She had a great upbringing, no abuse. As far as good parenting goes, it went well, you know? But she said, what was wrong with me to be able to find a man like this? Now, luckily, there was enough good with me. She jokes all the time, James. She says, thank God you're so hot. You know, what was wrong with her, though? She says that why did she pick that for herself? You know, well, just a sec, James. So somebody here, Dibbleman, says, have to address your personal hidden wound and heal first. Not really. Guys, we can talk about our war wounds all day long.
Right.
None of that is moving you to the red. It's keeping you in the brown, the shit.
That's right.
None of it. I get it. Your parents sucked. My parents sucked. James's parents sucked. Get it. But even if you have the best parents on the planet, Catherine's not proud of the woman she became when she reacted, when she had her 10% of the abuse. And see, none of us being proud of, or sorry, not proud of the person that we were is what's moving you forward. It's only the person you want to become. Has nothing to do with your past. That's what James just talked about.
That's right.
Peeling off the layer. Your wounds don't define you.
That's right.
You don't. No, these guys argue with me. You can stay where you are, or you can trust people who've helped 5,000 people who don't define themselves by their abuse anymore. How many clients do we have that were raped as children?
I don't even want to count.
I can't even count that high, probably.
Can't even count.
Like, here's the thing. If you want to be defined by that rape, then James just said it. Then they still have control over you. The amount of people we talk to, yeah, but my wife, yeah, but my husband, you know, this is what they went through. Listen, all you need to know is one fucking thing, you guys. It's a gift. They have no idea what it feels like to be loved. They've been so guarded, so unprotected, so hurt. And in fact, you have probably too. Otherwise, you just would have loved them right in the first place. You wouldn't have fucked up at all. And nobody goes through this shit without fucking up.
That's right.
You know? Somebody says, how do you fix a blended marriage if the kids were treated bad because of it? Is healing possible? Casey, it's always possible. The abuse that they went through, the bad treatment, it's all fucking shit. Nobody gets to decide what is more painful. I said it. I would rather have been punched. Catherine said she'd rather have been punched in the face than to gone through what I put her through. Right? James, are there anything specific things that you would have rathered? Or does it really fucking matter?
I don't think it matters. I mean, the bottom line is that, you know, the goal is to be free from the abuse and the abuser. But when we stay in it as a moniker, when we stay in it as a foundation that defines us, all the mental energy is directed toward proving or overcoming or being seen because of the experience. And then the abuser still dictates the identity. And so in that, we have to expose the abuse narrative as a false self. That's the point. We don't peel it off and work through it. We work through it by knowing that that's not who we are. And then we can witness it and experience it and work through it from a perspective of freedom rather than making it the constant thing that we're always fighting against. Because
that's why we say this is what we say. We don't sell saving a marriage. We sell freedom.
Freedom.
You guys don't understand. Look at this, for example. The victim is seen as the one who is abusive. Now, listen, if it's situational abuse, not characterological, just in case you're new, I'm going to break it down for you real quick. Characterological means it's a part of their character, which means they'll punch you because it's a Tuesday. They'll scream at you because it's a Wednesday. Has nothing to do with you. Okay. But in a case where it's situational, there are always two victims. We don't get to decide whose abuse is worse. I'll give you an example. If Catherine told me I was a piece of shit, if Catherine screamed at me, tell me I'm like a little bitch man, that's what I heard growing up every fucking day. That hurts me more than being punched in the face, because that's what I was abused with day in, day out. Daddy calling me Kathy. Daddy telling me he's a pussy. Catherine, I'll give you a good example for real life. When we just on the cusp of when we saved our marriage, you'd be more manly if you made more money. That hurt. I didn't drink or gamble my money away. The government shut my 7-figure gym down. That hurt me. But guess what Daddy did when I was 22 and opened a physical location? What did he say? Oh, he goes, you're not going to make the next Morrow Millions. Well, Daddy was the source of my fucking problems. This is why I say you guys don't need to know everything. You don't get to define what's worse. So yes, outside looking in, it hurts more when you've been abused. For, of course, the things I did to Catherine were more physically and assaultingly abusive. But I would have rather been punched in the face with a baseball fucking bat than to be called fucking Kathy by my wife.
Wow.
Guys, this is how important it is. So Catherine recognized how much she was responsible. There are two victims in situational advice. We don't get to I said advice, abuse. We don't get to decide. Obviously, neither are appropriate.
Right.
Okay? Neither. We think we should know better, not to scream. If that's all you know. Hi, my name's Cass. When I was Ryan, all I knew was fighting and screaming every day.
Yeah.
Fuck, I could just rant for fucking hours on this, man.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's important, we've brought it up, we've touched on it, but I want to sort of define it for a minute and talk about it, is that, okay, so in unintentional abusive type responses that triggers the abuse in me that I'm not aware of, and then I in turn turn around and act the same way and trigger abuse in my partner and abuse them. And they feel abused even though there is not actual intentional abuse taking place. And one of the reasons that happens is because we're not finding our identity. We're dealing with the anxiety of not knowing who we are. So when the abusive type stuff floats in the air, you smell smoke, there's fire, right? You become reactive, not just and sometimes violently emotionally. And one of the things that I've learned in this cast is that for me, instead of saying I'm strong because I survived my abuse, that still defines the strength in relation to the suffering and the trauma. Instead, I mentioned this yesterday, I am creative, expressive, and adventurous. It has nothing to do with that. Why did I say that? Because the abuse in my life made me stop singing. The abuse in my life made me stop writing. The abuse in my life made me stop doing this. So now, instead of, is it true that I survived abuse and became creative, expressive, and adventurous? Yes and no. The truth is I was creative, expressive, and adventurous, but because I took on the identity as an abused boy, I put all those things away. So now the identity has nothing to do with what's happened to me.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, Chris said really well, trauma is different for everyone. It's the meaning that each individual attaches to the experience. Change the meaning, change the effect on your belief.
That's right.
Unfortunately, it's not that easy though, Chris. You're right. We have to teach people how to do this because it's so easy to get focused on your pain. I mean, if you guys don't think about social media, if I say you're going to have the best sex life on the planet, it doesn't go anywhere on social media. Nobody's going to fucking watch that video. The moment I say you are the reason you're not having sex, pain, fuck, 1 million views. It's fucking crazy to me. See, we all want love, but we focus on the shit. And we become codependent on ourselves to cause more of the shit. Forget your partner and your codependency. You would rather complain and focus on your pain. That's why we blame. That's why we attack.
That's right.
You know, excuse me. Last week we talked about resentment. It's why you get resentment, because you don't want to deal with the fact that you could have a part to play, whether it was the choice to date this person, not paying attention to signs, whether now it's too late, you're married, you got integrity, we're going to follow through. Okay, great. Now maybe you just enabled a lot of the shit. You know, I talked about on a call with the men yesterday. I said, I think it's abuse to be cheated on. I think they're abusing you. That's a perspective that many won't agree with.
Yeah.
Right. But that's my perspective. Go fuck yourself if you don't agree. I don't give a fuck. But the point is simply that you probably enabled the first, second, third, fourth, 50th affair.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your fault. They shouldn't cheat. It's not your fault. You shouldn't get punched in the face. What have you allowed? See, most of the time, if it's not characterological, which it's not, most of the time it's situational, means there wasn't directly a punch in the face.
Right.
Does it excuse the punch in the face? No.
No.
Like Catherine would say, how much did she, if like the hidden recording that you guys can all watch, just DM me, fucking fight. Okay. Like the hidden recording of the fight that we had, Catherine knows exactly what happened during that fight versus what she did the night she called the police.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she will never tell anybody the story. She doesn't want people to know that.
Right.
Okay. But, and that's hers. I'll tell the world everything, but there's things that Catherine would like to keep private. Okay. And one of those things is the thing that she said something, I don't even know what it is, that she knew would push my buttons to the point where I lost my shit so much that I got charged with assault.
Yeah.
Now, we're not going to go there because the point is, it's not that she didn't deserve it. It's not that she deserved it. It's always about taking responsibility for what you could say and do. And these things get worse. Passive aggressive remarks turn to fucking name calling and swearing at instead of just swearing with, meaning I say fucking all the time. But if I say fuck you, I'm talking to you. Right. And like, if we understand that this gets progressively worse until we start to get to the things that you just can't handle and you don't deserve.
That's right.
It's victim shit. That's why you're not moving forward.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting, Kat, we've talked about this several times, but I find when it comes to anything that we experience in life, I mean, we have cohorts, we have groups, we have hobbies and interests, and it's neat to find an affinity with other people who share those things. But the irony behind that is that sometimes we need support to get through hurtful things like abuse or the loss of a loved one or the loss of a child or whatever it may be. And we find these support groups that become an affinity, that become in and of themselves an identity. I've got friends who've lost loved ones to cancer 20 plus years ago who walk in a continued state of depression because 2 nights a week they go and they get around all the other people. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but you've got to not let it be who you are. They get around everybody else who continually longs for the loss and hates the cancer. And so what happens is they get to a place of wanting that reciprocity for somebody to see them, for somebody to feel for them. And they live on the trauma bond of wanting someone to acknowledge what happened, or they want justice, or they want to know why, and all these things. And these are great questions. They're part of the psychology of how we deal with grief. But when we're making that who we are, we can never move forward. If we say, I have to have closure to move forward, we will always be in bondage to somebody else or to an experience that is out of our control. And so that's what we're saying here, is that this external validation goes along even sometimes with what's happened to us. I mean, you could with your business, you could have an entire social media presence about, fuck the Canadian government for what all they did to you. And how many of you guys have always lost their businesses? I mean, I lost several businesses during COVID. I lost a whole lot of income during COVID because everything I did was face to face. I mean, we could have a really amazing company to just bitch and moan about this.
Honestly, this is so perfect. Essentially, based off the way we feel about abuse in relationships, then can't we say Justin Trudeau fucked me over? Can't we say Justin Trudeau and the Canadian government, the provincial governments shut down my gym? Did they not abuse me financially? They took away what I could do. I lost my home. I lost my cars. I lost my shit. Listen, if I'm not a victim being abused, I'm responsible for my choices. I did not fucking pay off my house the year before when I made $1 million that year. So yeah, okay, I was abused, but see, we enable the shit that we don't want. And instead of being a victim, I got off my ass. I took my skills. I knew how to write Facebook ads. So I started to write content that you guys love. And here we are today. And I'm doing way better than I ever did with a brick and mortar gym. Doesn't matter how you apply this in life. Let me address some of the comments here, James. Communication is key. No, it's not. The reason you guys are all failing in your relationships is because you're doing what everybody tells you. If communication was key, you wouldn't be having trouble talking about the issues. But since we have trouble talking about issues and they get worse, maybe try some new advice. Conversation is where it's at. That's when
right.
you dream, achieve. Excuse me. Nobody cares who's interrupting who. Okay. You're not defensive. You're on the edge of your seat looking for your partner's next word. Okay. You're achieving dreams. You're fucking each other's brains out. Conversation is key. Stop communicating. Go to bed angry. Have fucking fun.
Yeah.
That's when life is good. Your issues don't matter. If you know anything about Catherine and my story, we didn't talk about half the issues. Go to our podcast, Morrow Marriage. We literally didn't address the issues the way you did, and we started to create the new marriage.
That's right.
The one that you're all following and trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So, Julia, I don't know if you just met us, but that's the real thing. Okay. Yeah. Dealing with real stuff, always deal with real stuff. That's one of the reasons why Morrow Marriage is the fastest growing brand for saving marriages, podcast, climbing in dating, and even self-help now, even though it's about marriage. Okay. Your husband, Rachel, is abusive to each other for a long time. If your husband is not on board, it sounds like he's not, we're separated. You want to learn how to love him correctly, which means you're on board. Okay. Good for you. Whoever's in does the work. That's it. And at Morrow Marriage, unfortunately, 90% of the time, it's one only. That sucks, but it is what it is. But we have lots of episodes of the podcast about that. You know what? I would encourage you to reach out to my wife. My wife can walk you through that, and you can move everything forward. That was the catalyst to supercharge my growth, to stop being abusive. Very important for all of you here, especially if you're feeling triggered. That means it's for you. Okay? And good morning from Australia. I think there was one more here. No. Okay, go, James. I've interrupted you far too much today.
No, it's okay. It's good. It's good conversation. Guys, we're so passionate about this because we see it as a stumbling block to success in life, a stumbling block to the emotional freedom that's necessary for you to be the person that you really are. And so being free, I'll just say this, I don't know how much longer we're going to go. We're probably at the end of our time, but the true freedom is the absence of the need to prove that you were in bondage. Liberation is not proving that you were trapped. It's walking away from the cage. And as long as we're blaming somebody, blame fuels engagement. Engagement fuels the cycle, and it's never going to end in that way. Stepping away removes the abuser's power entirely. So a survivor who no longer needs validation is free. A survivor who no longer references the abuser is free. And a survivor who no longer fights for recognition as an abuse victim is free, because freedom is not a debate. It's a state of being.
You actually are. On our app, we actually have a running contest with the men. Who's the most free?
Me.
Okay. No, fuck you. It's me. So now I want to address something, because Chris, you're really involved here. Sounds like, you definitely have somebody who is a lot like me, it looks like. Okay. I have a reel that always gets like millions of views. I was going to say 4. I don't really know the number, but always gets millions of views when I recreate it. And it's, you're nicer essentially to everyone else than you are your partner. Okay. And it sounds like that's what you've gone through, Smith Chris here. But listen, this is the same thing. Everything gets progressively worse. If they were like that from the beginning, from the very first date, they were friendly to the staff at the restaurant, but treated you like shit, well, then you're a fucking idiot. But now it's too late. Now you got to do something with that. But I'm betting that you're not a fucking idiot. I'm betting that your partner was great to you, and it got progressively worse. That's and right. Every comment that's come in here, I think you're trying to do a lot of work, but you're dangerously going down the path of Googling, if not already, the rabbit holes of attachment orders, narcissism, all the bullshit fucking things that distract you. How many times we get a message from a man saying, "Oh, but I think she's a covert narcissist." Listen, motherfuckers, you're following me. I'm a fucking managing severe narcissist.
You're not
covert. I can change and you follow me, then who cares about your partner and the abuse they're giving you? It means that it's possible. You just have to learn a little more.
Right.
Now look, I'm smiling. Because that's something you can do to move forward, guys.
Right.
That's something you can do. Right? We go down these rabbit holes, attachment theories. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know. I'm an anxious avoidant. This is why James talks so heavily about identity.
Yeah.
Do you like being anxious and avoiding the shit because of it?
No, we're trying to get there, though. We're trying to get secure, man. I'm going to be secure one day. One day I'm going to be secure. Not if you don't know who you are. If you think you're anxious avoidant, you're never going to be secure.
Guys,
it's a loop.
Before you start looking at things like narcissism, attachment theories, when you start going down all the rabbit holes, today I was interviewed on a show today, and they asked about the love languages. Man, like, I don't care what the tool is or what the theory is that you're going down. Listen, none of it matters. You cannot create the life that you want if you can't answer one simple question. Who are you?
Right.
See, you're going to come up with your job, your kids, your spouse, a variation of that. You might start talking about the confident person you are. And I'm not going to list a bunch of positive qualities because those qualities don't exist if you're following me on social media in your home, which means that's not who you are.
Right.
You're somebody in two different places, which is a lot like what Chris is talking about when they're saying they're nicer to me or nicer to everyone else than they are to me.
Mhm.
Okay, if you can't answer the question, who am I? How can your partner know who you are?
Right.
And if your partner can't know who you are because you can't love yourself, then aren't you kind of an asshole for expecting them to love you the way you want to be loved? So therefore, if we're talking about abuse, do you even think you're in the right place? See, you're not defined by the abuse. You're not defined by the shit that you've chosen in your life. Who's the man? Who's the woman behind the marriage?
That's right.
See, that's when we see a woman who stands up in her strength and like Catherine did not take my shit anymore.
Right.
That's when we have a man who goes, okay, it's not that I don't take her shit. It's not that I'm not a doormat. It's that I know who I am and I'm not effect. So what? She yells at me for the dishwasher. So what? She screams at me for that affair I had years ago, the rape that I did, the using me for sex. But when you are a man or a woman who knows who you are, that doesn't define you anymore.
Right.
What sounds more exciting?
Yeah.
Communicating through the issue, hurting through all your pain and what you've been through,
Yeah.
or laughing with your partner again, having a great time, achieving, dreaming. You're not defined by your criminal past. That's fucking bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. That's like telling an alcoholic, remember I got the plane from Africa? Go find out if God was real. He is, by the way. And then, excuse me, this woman was crying outside in the airport. And I said, what's wrong? You good, girl? And she said, I just spent 2 hours on a flight, my connecting flight, and they told me I'm never going to change. I'm going to be an alcoholic forever. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with people? What the fuck is You're not defined by your criminal past. I'm certainly not. Okay? You're not defined by your substance abuse. You're not defined by the abuse you were given as a child. For fuck's sakes. Like you can change. And if people don't let you, then fuck them. If I listened to the world, I'd still be a raging fucking angry narcissist.
Yeah.
I still would be because everybody, thankfully, I might still be. You know what? If there wasn't people like me saying this, there was nobody back then. I didn't even know what that was. Right? But if I listen to social media today, I'm fucked for life. I'm a narcissist. And my wife says I'm in love with you, not the narcissism. Because I'm not perfect. I still have to manage it. You can't cure it.
Can't cure it.
You can't cure it.
But it's not who you are, so you don't live like that.
No.
You know, it's not
I
who
just
you
have
are.
to be aware and have to be, if I'm struggling, I have to ask my wife, whom I trust. I can now.
Yeah.
Or I could call James. Buddy, am I getting this right? What's my perception here?
Yeah.
What's my reality?
And it's pretty quick and easy with you too. Yeah, that's not true.
It's not true. Jessica says, I've been trying to put down boundaries for years and capitals. I feel like I'm talking to deaf ears. You are. If somebody doesn't respect you, they're not going to respect your boundaries. That's like saying communication is key. It's not key. Conversation. Nobody cares about your boundaries. They don't care about you. If they only care about themselves, it doesn't mean it's time to quit. It means you need to be somebody that they'd be crazy to live without.
That's right.
Who are you? See, if you're defined by your bullshit, right? For example, you can't speak to me that way. It's such a common one with abuse, with the emotional abuse. You speak to me like that, I'm not going to talk to you. And what do? You go talk to him again. You need to take a minute. Now, there's so much more. I'm not going to get into that right now. We have a whole system at Morrow Marriage: inspire, lead, ask, and then motivate with a boundary.
Yeah.
But boundaries don't work that way. And you don't just find a way out. Marily, you don't, you guys. Look around you. The world is going to shit and our kids are going to live in it. You tell me you're a great parent? If you're a fucking quitter, you're not.
Right.
You're just not. I don't care what you're going through. That's the point of this episode. If you're following me and my wife and our story, then how can you say that?
Got to do everything that you can. And then the relationship will be what it is at the end of that. And that's something too. I think there's a caveat here to give. We're not saying put yourself in danger. We're not saying, listen, we're talking about people who want to make it work, but who can't get over the identity of an abusive situation. Put yourself in safety. Put yourself in safety. This is the context of fixing what most people call fixing. They want to fix it, but you can't fix it. You've got to become something new. And part of that freedom is not letting the abuse identify you. We're not talking about actively in the abuse right now. Put yourself in the place of safety. Don't tolerate it. Like you said, there's, infidelity is abuse to the other partner. It's abuse. It's a violation of the vows. It's a violation of this. And it's dangerous emotionally, physically, all of it. It's not good. And yet some people think, well, I can just if I just stay, if I just do, if I just, there's one thing to want to work on it and want to become, and I use the word fix because it's the only thing anybody knows. I want to see this resolved versus there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just going to be, I'm going to be the victim of infidelity. No, you can set boundaries and have a time where that's enough.
But you have to show up first.
You have to show up.
The problem is most of you don't show up first. You just lay in your boundaries because nobody's perfect. Let's pretend you're not a narcissist for a second because most people aren't. Okay. So let's just pretend. Okay. Now, on the flip side, we all act a little like narcissists, whether we're narcissists or not.
That's
the moment you defend yourself and only care about your needs, start enforcing boundaries that you're not actually going to follow through on. Guess what you just did? You practiced narcissism. Every time you fought and made up things in your perception, that's narcissism. It's called gaslighting. You got episode 200 of my podcast. We talk about true gaslighting, right? But understand this. It's not that we just all have traits. Some of us, like me, have all of them. That's why I'm a severe narcissist, okay? But at March 25th, we have an episode on this where you can talk to Catherine and me too. So not just James and I have our conversation, but Catherine's going to go into more of the story and what she did differently. If you follow the Morrow Marriage podcast, then, and I put the link in the chat here, then you can listen to Catherine some more of her perception and perspective on this. Because Catherine, again, she didn't hold a candle to the abuse that I put her through. Okay. But in taking 100% responsibility for her 10% of the toxicity in our marriage, not pushing my buttons, standing in her own strength. And this is along the lines of making sure she had boundaries, but it wasn't. Okay. But not validating my behavior, validating my emotions. Okay. She was able to curve the trajectory of where I was going with my growth, forcing me to grow more. Okay. You all have that power, whether you're a man getting kicked in the nuts and screamed at, clawed at, and scratched at, whether you're a woman who's feeling the firsthand version of some of the physical or emotional abuse. I think all women, you feel like you're being raped if you don't want your husband and you have to do it to manage his emotions. So whether you are physically like I used to hurt Catherine or not, all of that. But we have the opportunity to push you further. You can break the cycle and you can be there for your kids and show them what healthy looks like.
Yes. You
can do this because you want to be free. And I don't mean free of your partner. I mean, don't you want what there is something in there that you connected with in the first place? Something there. Let's get real. There's a reason why you got married. There's a reason why you had babies, right? I'm just going to see the comments here. All right. It doesn't matter if you are clear, Jessica, about what you want, what you expect. If you allowed it to get this bad where he doesn't care, now the exception is this, you guys. If you're showing up with, you have zero contempt, you've done the work, then you can definitely put your partner through a rock bottom. That should be something, especially if it's like what James was talking about, removing yourself from physical danger, for sure. Okay. You need to have the right people in place, right? All right. I'm pretty good today, James. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I just think, if you're just catching in, go back and listen to the rest of this thing, because the whole point of it is that we want you to understand that as an abuse victim, it's not who you are. So move past it, get free.
Get free. If you guys keep coming with the questions, we'll keep addressing them. And James, I always overhaul, but you can definitely pipe in if you want. He can't see the comments, guys. Pull up your phone if you want and get on Facebook here and just look at it. But somebody says, Kirsten maybe says, I'm struggling so much. My husband doesn't want to acknowledge his infidelity. He just wants to move on. How do I do that? You have to provide, Catherine would tell you this, provide the platform for him to grow. If you don't want him to cheat, then treat him like he's not cheating. Okay. Now, if you understand this, I don't know if you caught this earlier, I think affairs are abuse. I think that's terribly a terrible way to treat your partner, that kind of disrespect. But if you understand the cascade of betrayals, not mine, it's from somebody named John Gottman, there's 23 things that happen before the physical affair. Those are all your mistakes. It's non-biased. If you have the affair, they're his mistakes. Okay. So you've got to get good at providing him with the environment to grow. You've got to love him. What he's missing is the why he had the affair. And probably you are too. He was looking for validation. He was looking for approval. He was looking for somebody who wanted him or looked at him differently. You know, a good common example of this would be like when a man does this stupid thing and has this affair right when she's just had the baby. Because he's got his fucking needs. You know, I think it's fucking horseshit, obviously. But here's the thing: if you can step out of that situation for a second, this is how Catherine would do it. Would have done it. Okay, holy fuck! Like it must have felt awful for him to not be able to connect with you, right? Mm-hmm. The baby did feel like more of a priority. You know, I forget him and what he did wrong. I'm fucking working and he's not prioritizing you, helping with the family. Like I get it, but if we can all just step back and realize what could I do differently? Okay. Did you see a comment you want to address, James?
No, not really. I just think that when it comes to this infidelity situation, I mean, it's a delicate situation. There's always responsibility. I tell people all the time, you are 100% responsible for 100% of everything you did to bring the relationship to where it is today. Correct. That doesn't mean you have 100% burden or that it's a blame. It's just responsibility. So you ask yourself, what did you do? There's nothing that you did to make someone else cheat in the sense that you pushed them there. However, this cycle of betrayal, this tailspin that we're talking about, all this stuff is happening and these cycles inevitably end in the crash, whether it be physical betrayal, emotional betrayal, or abuse or whatever. It's going to end up in some kind of a crash. And, you know, at the end of the day, when you show up, if you want this relationship to work, when you show up authentically, when you are actually living in a way that you're not being triggered, you are leading. And then eventually you can say, okay, I've been patient. That's waiting with intention, with a boundary. And I've been patient and the patience is up. Here's your suitcase. You want me to help you pack? I mean, because if their only reason for change is loss of an option, that's not really a good thing. If the only reason you're changing is to not lose, that's not a good thing. You have to be you. You have to do it all for yourself 100%. So that you can make decisions willfully without any external pressure or internal influence. Because
otherwise, guys, say you're in a relationship right now and you're not that abusive yet. Maybe it's just some yelling and some fighting.
Right.
This is why the cycle repeats and gets worse. Exactly what James just said. If you have to watch it again, watch it again. Because as the cycle gets worse, I don't know why they say repeat the cycle. Anybody ever been in a cycle that's the same thing? Or does it get fucking worse?
It's worse.
Stop listening to society. Okay, seriously. Yeah. Donna says, I'm on day 6 of him not talking to me. I've reached out, but still nothing. I'm going to encourage you. See, people think they've tried everything. You know, how many times are you reaching out in different ways? How many times are you texting, audio, video? What kind of dates are you inviting them on? What kind of, favorite meals are you sending them? I mean, we can go on and on and on and on. And we have to deal with this all the time because we get guys with the worst case scenarios. Maybe they're a restraining order. So we have to get creative. Got to show the new you, right? But also, when they do connect with you, what is it like? You know, using the example of the affair, quite often people want the damn apology when you actually don't care about the apology. You care about the person you are that doesn't hurt thinking about the affair, having the insecurity, but yet you want the apology and you think that's going to fucking fix everything. Right? So who's reaching out? If he's not feeling like you're a safe place, Donna, that you're going to have a list of shit that you want to talk about, well, then probably he's not going to respond to you. Like we have to start looking at what kind of environment we're providing for our partners, male or female. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds sometimes that what we say when we say this, it sounds like dismissiveness. But what we're trying to help everyone see is that there are things that work and things that don't work. And people need to be accountable. People need to be able to hear the truth. But if the environment is an environment of no respect, or what my wife used to call trauma dumping, and it's always a constant shitstorm, it's not going to work. No matter what comes out of the mouth, a public service announcement is communication. doesn't give you any hope or
Mhm.
understanding. Knowledge is power. No, it's not. Wisdom is power. So wisdom says, I'm going to be a little bit, I'm going to be sort of shrewd here. I'm going to do what's abnormal in society and see if I can't get a different response. Because if you really want a better outcome, then try something different. If you
Yes.
don't, keep doing exactly what you want to do, because then don't bitch about it.
Just don't bitch about it or fucking leave. Jessica says, this is a perfect segue. Jessica says, I've wanted to keep my marriage and I've tried counseling and trying to forgive and understand. And the more I feel like I'm at an impasse. Listen, everybody's tried fucking therapy. And I know not everybody has, don't get me wrong, but that's like the number one method for saving your marriage.
Right.
If that worked, divorce rates would not be climbing. And do not get skewed with statistics after COVID. The reason why divorce slowed down and improved during COVID is we're dealing with it every day. Oh, I can't afford a divorce because of COVID. We're still dealing with it years later, right? So I want you to think about that. If you're repeating the same things, you're not going to move forward. Society's methods and ideas don't work. The examples we used today were communication and boundaries. Therapy is in line with that as well. Okay. 2, I want to just do this experiment. I love to do this experiment. Every one of you, if you think you want to talk about your issues, and if you think you want a therapist to go through the issues, or if you think you have friends and family that you want to get validation for where you're at, I want you to do this experiment with me right now. Okay. I'm going to count to 10. I apologize if you've already seen it before. I'm going to count to 10. And in these 10 seconds, I want to know everything that you see around you in the room that's brown. Look at James's screen right now. There's a lot of brown in there. I want you to count it all. Light brown, dark brown, chocolate brown. How many things are brown? Go. Stop. How many things are red? You see, when you're looking for the shit, you don't create the life that you want. Stop talking about your past. Stop dealing with your bullshit and your trauma from a childhood. Stop worrying about how it's attached to every relationship you had, and stop looking at all the crap. The reason why Catherine and I are so successful and moving marriages so fast with our podcast alone, never mind our books, never mind our social media following, is because it's not that we sweep things under the rug. It's because we want to create the new life. The new life, let's use the affair example again, is when you are never insecure because you are clearly all over each other, lusting after each other, and it's impossible that they would want someone else. That's what you want, not the apology and not the wondering why they had the affair on you and all the guilt that you feel from that shit. Okay? It doesn't matter what we talk about. That's the way it is. You either create the life that's more exciting for your partner or you don't, which means you know yourself or you do not. Which means you love yourself if you do know yourself, which means they can finally love you, which means you don't have to defend yourself. That's why James talks about being 710 days anxiety free. He didn't have to defend himself anymore. I don't have to defend myself. I know who I am. And if my wife challenges me, I'm not going to take it personal.
Right.
I'm going to reflect and look differently.
She might just be right. You might learn something.
100%. We actually were just on a podcast and I did learn something. Yeah. I learned something when we were this was on our podcast actually. And it hasn't aired yet, but she said something like, I actually don't know what I would have done if he had an affair back then. Thankfully, I didn't have to go through that. I don't know if I could have lived like that. A lot of my clients I've helped and walked through because it feels like to them and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, I said to Catherine, well, shit, I gave every other girl that cheated on me an affair, that cheated on me and had an affair. I gave them another opportunity. I think I'd have to give you an opportunity. But immediately I like the reflection happened fast and I was like, well, fuck, I'd have to look exactly what I did wrong. Here I am thinking I'm great, doing the work that I've done and that I keep improving. I keep rising. I keep teaching. I would have to take a deeper look and go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So it's no longer tied to my identity. It's like, I need to look at who I am. What did I miss? I would actually learn something.
Yeah.
Right. But see, I wouldn't take it personal. I wouldn't defend myself. Why? Because I already know who I am.
That's right.
That's
right. Over on your other page, I see this lady named Nicole Ann. She's got 4 or 5 comments that I'd like to bring up.
Yeah,
she says, I'm dealing with a mama's boy. He doesn't want to deal with adult stuff. He blames me for how his life is right now, and he hates seeing me grow. And I'd love to touch base. I'd love to talk about the growth thing.
Please. And tie in core values, because we have one about core values too.
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is when it comes for me, core values in my system of discovering your identity, they're really core identities. because you take them off, you look at them, you witness them. So the first thing that I did when I decided I wanted to be myself and learn who I was is I took love off, because love was the nature of all my pain. I loved and I gave, but what I found out is I was loving with a covert contract. I was loving to get validation. I was loving to find my identity. I took it off for a couple of weeks, just like I don't care about anybody. I hate the world, blah, blah, blah. And then I found that's not me. I am loving. So how do I then keep a guardrail on this as an identity? Then I figured out there are other core values. For example, guard the yes. I say yes only when it aligns with what I need to do because of what's in front of me or because of who I am. I'm not just going to say yes because I need somebody to like me or to be happy with me. If you want to borrow my truck, the answer is no. I'm not letting you take my truck to haul stuff in because it's not that type of truck. Yours either, right? I mean, it's the only vehicle you get. You don't get to do it. I'm not a bad guy because I guard something that I need. It's not selfish. Just a simple example. And so when you find that identity and you begin to grow, you uncover these things and you begin to live an aligned life, that when the other stuff that doesn't match, when the other relationships that don't resonate with you begin to come into your life, you feel them like an out-of-tune chord or like a wind with sand in it. You feel it. And then the people around you are going to start feeling distance. And I use this analogy of like when you're, especially in a relationship, a friendship or a marriage or family, or even with children, you've got this tether between you. And as one person in a relationship grows, they get further and further away, but there's this tether and it gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. There comes a point when you grow that you're not looking behind you anymore. You're not trying to drag that person saying, come on, come on, come on. And one of two things is going to happen. That is either going to pop and leave them there, or you're going to cut it and leave them there. Mm-hmm. And you're never going to turn around until you hear these words. Hey, wait up. Wait up.
That's how important this is, guys. You're all sitting there. Here's somebody down here talking about husband being a nymphomaniac. There's a fucking label again that's preventing you from ever creating the life that you want. See, if you don't know who you are and what you're doing, and you're defending yourself and blaming them, giving a condition or a label, for example, well, you're not going to, you know what? He's probably not a nympho. We all start out this way where we need the vagina to survive until we realize that we needed it for validation because we don't love ourselves. See, there's actually something that's more important. So I caused Catherine to have sex with me 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day, forced her, fear sex, all kinds of job stacks, checking out the to-do list. I actually wasn't an nympho. I don't have a sex addiction. I didn't know who the fuck I was. Therefore, if Catherine loved me, especially through sex, I felt something. That is almost every fucking man on the planet. But the moment you label him, you've just given yourself an excuse. You've justified why it's okay. That's why he's into porn and shit. That was somebody else's comment. No, porn is not an addiction. Porn is a fucking mindset.
It's a mindset.
What is the actual need? See, you guys get stuck, and that's why you're not moving forward. Honestly, you get stuck listening to everybody else. Yeah. I know social media could be a rabbit hole. I get it. James, you just got excited there.
No, I was just saying it, and that's it. I mean, we get so caught up in the excuse of the identity of the addiction of the whatnot. Yes, it causes addictive issues in the brain, but you know why men use that crap? It's because they hate themselves, and they use sex for me as medicine of a way to feel whole and feel true. They get it as a connection point to intimacy, but it doesn't create intimacy. It's the byproduct of romantic intimacy. Mm-hmm. And if it's not the byproduct, why would you want it? You see what I'm saying? I mean, it just, I hear, and I coach men, especially young men who are single, who aren't even sexually active, to this point in their life. And they're overcome by sexual addiction. And they're told, well, you got to get in this program, you got to get in that program, you get in this program. Listen, I've got a sexual mastery program that I'm finishing up right now that we're going to provide for our community. And it's going to turn heads because it's extremely avant-garde in the context of, if you know who you are and what you need, you realize you don't need sex. Sex is not a need.
Hey guys, let me be clear. I fucking love sex.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't need Catherine's vagina to survive anymore.
How about chocolate cake? Who doesn't love chocolate cake? But
I don't. But that's a bad example for me. But all right, so we have a couple of good ones here. The statement that I think it was Jessica Boyd. Yeah, you said in the meantime he's still triggering. That's you. He's not triggering you. That's you not knowing who you are and being identified by the thing that triggers you, the situation it reminds you of. That's why when we say to people, you know, you might not like what I have to say. Even this episode on abuse might piss you off. That means you need to hear the information, guys. Okay.
Right.
That means it's work that you have to do, because you can have a trigger, but there's a response time between the time you're stimulated and the time the gun goes off, that you either do something with the trigger or you don't.
Right.
Right. That's emotional control, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. You want to change for your husband, Rachel, for your kids, so you don't lose them. Call a lawyer right now. If you don't want to change for you, you will repeat the same cycles with your partner. You will destroy your children.
Right.
And guess what? You'll do with the next ones too. Call a fucking lawyer, or start identifying with the fact that you don't know who you are. You're defining yourself by your husband and your children, which means you can't love yourself, which means every time you yitched, that's a combination of yell and bitch. Yitched, every time you yitched at your husband or your kids, it's because you were triggered, because you can't deal with the shit. So it's hard to hear, but unless you define yourself as the woman behind the marriage, behind the parenthood, then you are never going to move your life forward, and you will always be triggered. You'll always be upset. You will always repeat your cycles. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Thanks for the shout out, Bill. Bill's one of our Lord's ambassadors. He's not, Donna, nobody shares what you need. Nobody, because everybody's inherently selfish until you learn to give. And I mean truly give with zero expectation in return. You'll never get the life that you want, ever. Think about it. Do you think Catherine liked being abused? Do you think it was easy for her to drop her defensiveness? No. And again, watch the podcast episodes coming out soon, right? But she did what she had to do to protect her children. That was her motivation. I was the beautiful byproduct. Okay? Guys, the comments are on like Facebook and stuff here. I can't go through both. We don't have anybody moderating, or YouTube or LinkedIn, looks like. All right. Okay, Chris, I could tell from all your comments today, Smith, Chris, that you go down too many rabbit holes and too much judgment. You need to focus on you. You've given out so much that I got nothing here as far as I can remember. And apologize if there was something, but it should be 99% the other way around, where it's what could I do differently? You'll not create the life that you want ever blaming other people, including cheaters. I know you're doing a blanket cheater thing here, but it is the fault of the cheater. Get some research under your belt. 23 things happened before the affair. Your fucking mistakes. And it's non-biased. If the man or woman has the affair, the mistakes are the other person's. Not just them, the other person too. So educate yourself. Yeah. These mindsets are fucking you up from the future you want. Okay? All right. I flip-flop so many times. Let her stay. Yeah, Jessica, everybody flip-flops. You have to decide if you're in or decide if you're out. But if you decide you're out, just know you're the fucking quitter. That's it. Don't blame your partner. Yeah. Take the responsibility. I'm the quitter. You decide you're out.
Done the work. Until you've done the work. We talked about that the last 3 weeks with patience, impatience, and resentment and entitlement. Right. When you've done everything, not to beg, plead, claw, and change, but when you have changed and you stand in the place of structure and power and permanence, and that person doesn't see you, they don't see you as the new you and want to be with you, give them a parting gift.
That's it. Guys, the sexless is the easiest example, because you can show up and you become like, you get past the enemy stage, you're best friends and roommates, but we're just not intimate. Okay. At the end of the day, there obviously is something else that needs to be addressed. It could be part of the relationship. It could be personal. Let's say hormones, or a guy who had too much porn, like there's so many other things that we could look at. And I'm not going to give all the examples, but at some point you might have to force. That's where we talk about motivate with boundary, not lay boundary.
That's right.
Boundary. You have to get clear on how you're asking and inviting. That's why we talk about patience, impatience, and why and when. Go watch those.
That's right.
We're joining
the reason it's so important too, Cass, we just need to say this. The reason it's so important to go through the process of personally growing and becoming free and getting the tools to embody, to provide the structure, is because you can't lead if you're not there. And secondly, if you escape, you think you're free from the pain, you're just going to enter into the same dynamics with a new person, and you're going to repeat the same process.
100%.
It's going to get worse. It happens every single time. Now, if people are cheating when you meet them, they're gonna you probably shouldn't be with them.
Well, and yeah, because that's different. Go back to the
That's different.
characterological versus
Right,
situational
right.
abuse at the beginning of the episode. If they were cheating when you met them, well, they're probably characterological.
Yeah,
Now,
they
it
can't
doesn't
be.
mean that they are, so do not misinterpret what I'm saying.
That's
You know,
right.
we get a lot of guys that start dating, at least I'm just speaking for men because we work with men. Catherine could talk about women another time. But,
Yeah,
you know, we get a lot of guys that join the program, and the part of the problem was they started the marriage off with dating 3 women at the time, including their wife,
and they
right?
never stopped dating 3 women at the
Yeah.
time, even if they got
Or
married.
on and off or whatever, and now business meetings look bad,
They
and like,
keep them on the side, you know?
yeah. Now, that could be situational, but that could also be characterological. We need to know more questions, okay?
But you
But
don't have to tolerate it either.
also true, right? But if you've enabled it this long and you have a family, I'm going to challenge your integrity if you quit,
Exactly right.
right? Because we know that it's a 100% success rate if you don't fucking quit. The problem is a lot of people like to quit because it's easier to victimize yourself, okay?
That's right. Back to the abuse conversation.
You already addressed mom's voice, so I'll leave that alone. Do you really want a submissive wife, or do you want a capable partner that can handle business with you? Listen, I submit to my wife. My wife submits to me.
That's
We
right.
both lift each other, meaning we're both leaders in the relationship because we both have strengths. But it
That's
didn't
right.
work that way in the beginning. In the beginning, there were different stages where she had to submit to me. What do you think it was for her to not take my abuse, but still love me in a way when she was hurting so desperately, where she thought she had to fake it, you know, to get through to save the children? That's her submitting.
Yeah.
To her values as a person, to her children, to me, so that I could grow, hopefully, looking for a miracle, to her vows. Guys, when you understand submission, it's a gift. Just start giving what you want. You want respect? Give it. You know?
Yeah.
All right. Most men don't want to deal with adult stuff. They're afraid of you. Nicole says he doesn't want to deal with adult stuff. He's probably afraid to talk to you about it. Right? I don't know you, so I'm not judging you. I don't know the fucking story, but I know that most men are people pleasers, wife pleasers.
Right.
Right? They're afraid of disapproval. They make decisions not based on core values, but based on that shit.
Right.
Okay. So you might have to soften. You might have to be less critical. You know, there's lots of things we could talk about. You know, a lot of you, looks like women here. There's a lot of you interested. You might want to listen to our podcast. Hear Catherine. Connect with Catherine on her DMs. You know, women don't know your power. You do not know your strength and the power you have. It's unfucking believable, the power you have as a woman to influence your man. And I know that's bullshit because I think a man should lead. In fact, if you know our story, Catherine was my catalyst. The reason why I'm so hard on men is because I wish I did it differently, and I now have the tools to show them how they can. But women, you don't have to hurry up and wait for your fucking husband to be a boy into a man. You could just fucking lift him into that.
That's right.
You know the power. All right, dude. There's no more comments. Do you have any last? Oh, there is. Shit, hold on. They just popped in.
What? Where?
Facebook.
Let's go.
Everybody blames everybody, Nicole. Just focus on who the fuck you want to be. And let me give you an example of a story that Catherine and I heard on the client the other day. The guy said, if you're like this, I don't want to be with you. Well, he shouldn't say that. He's in my fucking program. That's a terrible thing, right? But Catherine said, yeah, but do you like who you are right now? She said, well, no. Would you want to be with you? She said, well, no. Okay, so good. Turn the blame inward. Almost always, you're not perfect. Okay? All right. I do have to cut this. This is a long one today. Moment I decided to change was when my wife, I was abusive, became normal, neutral. So I wasn't so abusive, but I wasn't really a great man. And then I thought I was going to be like, fine, I'll leave you both, the old me and you. And then my wife said, I'm not losing my kids 50-50. So she got to work. Now that's, again, why I teach men to just get to work first. Okay? Mm-hmm. But you don't know your power. Okay? And everybody's going to hate your growth. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
The way it works. Yeah. Until you hit the rock bottom or you leave them behind. Okay?
That's right. Yeah, it was Donna's comment that made me do the little analogy with this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, guys, the comments are going on and on and on, but we've already gone for an hour and almost 10, so we do have to cut it. But hope you guys got a ton of value. If you're looking for more and you like this, then go to our podcast, Morrow Marriage, our last name, Marriage. Okay? The link, I'll put it in the comments again, is also, if you're looking for support, a lot of what we talked about today, you could probably use support. Okay? Our app, I'll put the link in the comments for that. Go.morrowmarriage.com. Okay. There's a free women's community, a free men's community, and we have a ton of resources. Okay. If you're looking for real help, then get in touch with us and let's get going. Okay. Let's do it. All right, James, any final thoughts?
No, it's been good conversation. We'd love to hear from you guys.
All right. Somebody said need to get our books. Here you go. Here's mine. AZD. And here's Catherine's. I see how you use shortcuts here to finish the text really fast here. Okay, there you go. There's our books there. Guys, there's so much. There's so much we can do to help you. But watch this again. You know, really focus on the fact that there's always more that you can do to create the life that you want, even if you're being abused. Okay? All right, guys, you're very, very welcome. We'll talk to you guys soon. Okay? See ya.
See ya.